being able to take a task and break it down into steps is the number one thing you can do to improve self-efficacy. But in the research, they never actually give that a name. So they'll talk about it later as one of the aspects of self-regulation. And then you have this mouthful that they develop, self-efficacy for self-regulation, which is your ability to change yourself, which is kind of getting at this more general idea of self-efficacy. It's not just about being able to dive off the 5 meter or dive off the 3 meter diving board. But it's also about in general, your ability to acquire new skills and applying it to that. So what I like about self-efficacy is it does kind of scale up to more general areas. Maybe it gets a little bit unclear what they're talking about when it gets to very general, because originally self-efficacy was just the prediction that you have of being able to attain a desired outcome, by applying your given level of mastery. So do I have enough mastery to attain the outcome that I want? So that's essentially how it was originally seen. So it's always originally seen in the literature, it was described as being very context specific. So you might be high on self-efficacy in math, but not in Spanish. And you can, your self-efficacy for handling mice is very high, but snakes is very low.
Yeah. So, okay. Quick question about that. Is it about your rating of your own level of your current level of mastery, or is it about your confidence in your ability to develop greater mastery? So it's kind of like a growth mindset.
Yes. Interestingly, it's not about whether or not you have a skill. Is it whether you can deploy the skill effectively in a given situation? So, for instance, I can have total confidence that I can play, let's say, Clair de Lune, although there are parts that I habitually skip. But for the most part, I can play Clair de Lune. But if I were to be playing in front of a large audience, I actually am not sure I could do it. So, because I always, I just don't have that many opportunities to practice being in front of audiences playing the piano. If I was serious about it growing in that way and it somehow is important, well, then I would work towards it. And I'd find smaller ways. I would take it, play, more simple things in front of audiences, and then work up the complexity of the things I play in front of audiences. But that's the kind of sense that can you take whatever desired outcome? It could be playing Clair de Lune in front of 200 people in a recital in the Sanders Theater at Harvard. Okay, girl, that would be, actually that would be kind of daunting. But then you can break it down into steps. So whenever you can take something and start to break it into smaller things and then break those into actual steps that you're going to do, the act of breaking something into steps is a cognitive strategy that allows you to develop the sense of self-efficacy. Because each step you can be pretty sure you can do. And then it's like learning how to dive. Okay, that you have to bend the legs, you have to lean forward, and you have to make the jump. So you kind of learn, okay, here's the normal thing I do, these 3 things. And then I know if I just do them in that order, the form will follow. And for whatever else. I'm thinking of in What About Bob, when Dr. Leo Marvin is trying to teach his son how to dive. And he's actually a very bad teacher. But at least he was trying to break it down into steps. So that's one thing.
So, okay, when you talk about the tie-in with work, and so I can see that maybe playing devil's advocate a little bit, because generally I'm on board with the idea that growth in work transfers to other areas, but let me just see how you would respond to this. You mentioned that in work, you're learning how to break things down into steps, and then that is key to self-efficacy. So then you grow in kind of this general ability. So you can kind of work your growth. But it seems like in these other areas, there's a huge emotional component, in fear of snakes, for instance. But with work, maybe work on a report or, a presentation or, programming something, it seems like that wouldn't necessarily give you that confidence that you can engage a more emotional type or like anxiety or fear sort of challenge. So how do you bridge that gap for people? I mean, I'm confident that if I, you know, encounter some difficult programming task, I can think through the steps and accomplish that. But how do I get that to transfer then to a high stakes, anxiety inducing challenge?
So that's a key aspect of self-efficacy. It's the ability to handle your own physiology. So, and that plays a large role in determining, are you able to effectively do this task in this particular context?